welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the Morning Bugle on NCBN. And as earlier mentioned, today is the World Day for Writers and Copywriting.
Yes.
Let's be sure I'm using the right terminology because writers always get their words right.
World Book and Copyright Day.
Aha,
yeah.
Right. I know there was something missing. But basically, it shines light on writers, it shines light on the literary world, and of course, the respect for the work that they do. And that's why it's only appropriate for us to have the actual authors here, writers and people who continue to enrich our words with powerful words and keep, something for the next generation to hold on to.
Yeah. Just a prelude to the conversation. The World Book and Copyright Day is a celebration to promote the enjoyment of books and reading each year. On 23rd of April, celebrations take place all over the world to recognize the scope of books, a link between the past and the future, a bridge between generations and across cultures. On this occasion, UNESCO and the international organizations representing the three major sectors of the book industry, publishers, booksellers, and libraries, I would say, select the World Book Capital for a year to maintain through its own initiatives the impetus of the day's celebration. Now we have one of these authors in our midst talking about Eketi Edima Ete. She is an author. She wrote the book Chinda Ella. She is also creative director, Kedima Consulting, co-founder, Meet a Need Empowerment Initiative, and listed thrice among 100 most influential young Nigerians. It's good to have you join us today.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning Bugle.
Thanks for having me.
What does this day represent for you?
Okay, so for me, this day is basically sort of an acknowledgement of what I do and what other writers do, what everybody in the literary world does, from the publishers to the writers to the readers themselves. Today is our day, if I were to put it that way, yes. That's what it means for us, yes.
All right, let's also introduce our second guest. We have two guests, joining us for this discussion. She is Aisha Abdul Karim, author, Iyar Fari. Aisha is lecturer, Department of European Languages, Federal University, Kebbi State. Sokoto State Coordinator, Hilltop Creative Arts Center. It's good to have you join us. She's joining virtually, so good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you. Be here.
Okay, I think it would be appropriate to also ask you what this particular day represents for you.
The World Book and Copyright Day is probably very few occasions where writers, publishers, and bookworms are active. And it means a lot because it gives the opportunity to table of writers across the world and publishing and how it fared over the years, challenge prospects and innovations that comes on board. So it's a very important and auspicious day for us.
Very interesting. I would like to know, I'm curious about, World Book and Copyright Day. I think there are two things that, authors and all creative thinkers deal with. When you look at the issue of copyright, how would you say as a person you have suffered, from this issue of copywriting, even as an author?
For copywriting, especially for those of us in Nigeria, we have had harrowing experiences both with the child and the outside world. Specifically, the issue of piracy is a very big challenge to us and even publishers. If you as a writer, if you give your right to a publisher, you're not paying 1 naira. When you publish after sales, you get royalties. But sometimes these royalties are not forthcoming. They don't come, the people just tell you stories. Even when you see these books being sold, you don't get royalties. But a few publishers have up to the expectation and they pay. Then on the outside there, a lot of us who are actually into this illegal proliferation of pirated books. They just get one original copy and they go to their backyard, they continue to print. Apart from taking away from the author your benefit of being an author, they all read this carelessly that some pages are missing. Personally, as a it's a point of duty that you don't get to my class. I don't allow that. Because they are mostly, and they paint a bad image of writing within Nigeria. But recent times, this issue of digitalization writing, bringing a new dimension to it. If authors are able to access putting their works on soft copies on legal websites where the PDFs will be available for sale, it goes a long way to curtail copyright activities, illegal activities under the copyright law of Nigeria.
All right. Perhaps we would hear from Eketi as well.
Absolutely. I could
experience.
definitely see you concurring to her. It would appear you have a very personal experience.
Oh, yes. I totally agree with what she said. It's more than anything, it's a very painful experience to have your work, taken. And that's something that writers struggle with in Nigeria. And I'll come from two angles. First, social media. So because of the way social media is, people literally just, copy things and post. And there is this unwritten belief that once it's out there on social media, it's free for all. Anybody can take it, anybody can claim ownership. We see it from memes to pictures to books. And so that's something that is terrible. And then because we don't, for instance, I think it was in 2013, I wrote a particular story and I put it on Facebook and then I put it on my blog. So I do something with my work, which is when I write on social media, I embed my name in my work. So there are particular sentences that when you read the first letter of every word, it will spell my name. And so I did that. That's kind of my own signature for when someone steals my work. I can say to them, this is my story. And if they argue, I can show them, these are the sentences that have my name in them. So someone stole my work and put it on, I think it was Nairaland. And people started tagging me. And I have different modes for how I post. If I post on Facebook and I post it on my blog, or I post it on Twitter, I change something. So I can always tell where you lifted it from. So this person lifted it from my blog and put it about a month later and put it on Ireland. And people, were calling me. I was in a meeting, I came out and I had so many missed calls and people were like, oh, I think this is your story. You posted this on your blog. And I said, yes. And I went to the person like, oh, are you on Ireland? I said, no. I'm like, okay, I think someone is claiming your story. And I went there and I told the author, I said to her, this is not your work. Why didn't you just put my name there? And she's like, it's my work. And she insisted. And I said, okay, I could send you links where I posted it before, like a clear month. So unless you came back to the past or you went to the future or something and lifted it, it's not your work. And there was a lot of back and forth. And eventually I think it was the owners of the site, they listened to the complaints and then they took the work down and apologized to me. And that was just the first one I can really remember. It's happened time and time again. And the struggle in the social media space is that it's not just that you can't sue, but sometimes, in Nigeria, our legal system and all of that, it just seems like it's such a bother to press charges for these things. Ordinarily, you should. And, people now think that it's okay to take stuff. And when they take it, they think an apology suffices. Some don't apologize. They just block you. They just block you and you can't see, if they're lifting it. People have lifted entire books. Like yesterday, we were struggling, we were discussing someone on Facebook who lifted an entire book, someone's book from Amazon. And wasn't just selling it. The person gave the book away for free. But he lifted it from Amazon. I was actually doing a book signing.
Wow.
Yes, this person was doing a book signing and a book launch for this book that is not his. And it's insane that someone would do that. And that's the kind of thing that we struggle with. And then we also have the publishing side of things where you give your manuscript to a publisher. The publisher is basically responsible for everything from editing to marketing to selling. And the remuneration that comes from that is really small.
Nigeria, I would say it is often said that if you want to, it's a common saying anyway, not that it's true, but that if you want to hide anything from a black man, put it in writing and put it in a book. And so you find that in our day-to-day lives, the reading culture and habit. Nigeria is not known to be this this kind of environment that has value for book culture, and all of that. Do you think that this is probably some of the reasons why we have seen this kind of unstructured way of handling things and dealing with things? Let me perhaps let Aisha respond to this first before you come in.
Oh, okay. Actually, the issue here is the Nigerianness in us helps us to utilize every situation that comes the opposite direction. Nigerians don't like reading books, yes, but the money, the finances and the gains that comes from especially other people's work is what their interest is. Thinking of the fact the owner of this has the right, really the larger percentage of the gain that comes.
Okay.
All right, we'll take your views while we try to sort the internet out. Let's take your views on that.
Okay. I don't know how to put this. Nigerians don't like reading books. I don't really know if that's the truth, because I don't know if that's a fact, because more and more we're seeing more people reading. And my focus is usually on the online space. We have a lot of young people online reading constantly, whether it's posts or pictures. I mean, when you look at the Nigerian Facebook community, if I may put it that way, and the Nigerian Twitter community, you have a lot of readers. You have people constantly going through books and constantly going through posts and all of that. Not necessarily, Nigerians like reading, as long as it interests them. For me, I think it's beyond the not liking to read. It goes to what I feel is the root of the problem, which is were we encouraged to read for pleasure and for leisure from when we were young. That is not something that a lot of us experience. For most people, it was read to pass your exams. It wasn't read for leisure. It wasn't read for pleasure. Now, some people picked up the art of reading for pleasure when they had grown up. And so I think that I wouldn't say that we don't like reading. We don't know. Most of us don't know that reading should be something that we do for pleasure. So most times when you're talking about reading, people are thinking exams.
I was going to come in with that, because if we're saying that we have a huge market for piracy and, for people's copyrights to be infringed on, that means that we have a lot of readers who are ready to not just read these things, but pay to read them.
Yes.
So it appears we have a market. We've just not put structures in place to ensure that both writers and readers are doing right by themselves.
Exactly.
It appears we have Aisha back.
Yes. And I'm going to get back to you with, the conversation surrounding structure. Because I, for instance, attended at least my undergrad in a Nigerian university. And it appears that in the institution that is supposed to uphold some of these, conversation and rights that are attached to academics, and whether you're a poet or whatever it is, your creative knowledge and your ability to put it down is a school. And we have conversations surrounding plagiarism and the likes of it. However, we also see that in our higher institutions, we print, we reprint, we pirate people's work. We have lecturers, unfortunately, who would actually not just, photocopy their own work, but photocopy other people's work and sell to students.
Exactly.
So in that case, the question would be, do you think that our higher institutions are doing enough to help put a stop to the issue of piracy and copyright infringements?
In fact, our higher institutions are one of the biggest causes of piracy and duplication of authors' works. That is why, as a lawyer, I do the little I can my own ways to make that I don't work with pirated works. I do not encourage my students to. If I give a book, if I read a book, I go extra mile to get that book. I know authors as in Nigeria, I help my students access book, but I can't say the same for every other lecturer out there. So apart from those who go to take books, pirate them, and resell, higher institutions in Nigeria are also very big corporates. They to material, duplicate them, and give to students and get money. So when I said we don't like reading, I mean reading with consciousness for personal extended information. We like reading for fun. And what we read, what we like reading is another question. Here again, you should look at that intellectuals in Nigeria play in duplication and abuse copyright law of Nigeria. So the institutions in Nigeria are not enough. They need more. They need to sanitize the public. They need to sanitize book, because I believe that if the higher institution can do and put necessary modalities in place to control these things, help the outside competition of publishing and be I take.
Well, it tells us we have a lot of work to do from every level.
It does. Akiti, you would like to maybe talk about that and then talk about how also the digital space has revolutionized the book publishing in, not just in Nigeria but even in the world. You hinted on the negative side of it, which is that people just feel like once it is up there on the internet, you can just copy and just use as you feel like, but then we cannot throw away the baby with the bathwater, isn't it? What are the other ways that this digitalization has helped?
Okay, I believe, and I have seen that the digitalization of this publishing and everything, book writing and everything, has encouraged more reading. In my experience, in my observation, when we had, I think the very first, I'm allowed to name names, would be Okada Books. When Okada Books came out...
This one time you're allowed.
Yeah, okay. So when Okada Books came out, a lot of people, because back then, not many people had access to Amazon. Not many people had access to Kindles. So it was difficult, for us to get into that space where we say, okay, we're buying books online, we're doing soft copies and we're reading them. But when Okada Books came, we had a lot of people at first people were hesitant, and then it started growing. People were publishing their books on Okada Books. Self-publishing became a thing. Before, you had to send your manuscripts to a publisher and then you wait. And if they accept it, good for you. If they don't, try again. And so people had another door open where they could write their own books and then publish their own books, sell their books, and see the immediate rewards. There was no middleman, so to speak. Okada Books is a middleman, but that period of waiting, that period was removed. And so you go on Okada Books and there are lots of people selling their books, publishing their books. Some are giving it away for free, and other platforms have come up since then. I think there's Literature, one of those. So other platforms have come up that people are doing the same thing, constantly putting out their books. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Because when you pick up your phone and you open the app, and, you're reading the story, it's just immediate. You don't need to, and then you don't need to go buy. Some people don't want to go and buy books. They don't want to go to bookstores. Some don't even have access to bookstores. But your phone is in your hand, and you can do this immediately, and you can read, and the satisfaction is just instant. And in the world of instant gratification that we're in now, it's such a wonderful thing, because it just means that you keep having content to consume, and the people who have content keep putting out content. And for me, that's just an amazing thing.
Okay. I would like to talk about what you will be expecting, as far as, having a better structure is concerned, from what we have right now, and what should be the ideal situation, for authors and publishers, in Nigeria. How can we improve the system? How can we have a better system that places value on books and the rights of authors, on them? How can we do that? What's the role of government? What's the role of private sector?
Okay, on the government side of things, I think that we need more. One of our biggest problems in Nigeria is that the average citizen has no idea what laws are in place to protect them. So, and the average citizen has very little idea of what their rights are. They may have a vague idea, and that's what I think that the government can do better, to sensitize people on what their rights are. I'm telling you, many people don't actually know that it's wrong for you to take someone's book or to quote, to take, to lift an excerpt from someone's book and put it in yours and not acknowledge them. You even on the social media space, the digital space, you have people do that, and when you reprimand them, they say stuff like, but the person is sharing your thing now, it's making you popular. And they think that popularity pays, for this thing that this person has done, So people need to understand, and they don't, that it's a crime for you to steal someone's work, and that there are actual laws that cover that. People also need to understand that the government also needs to sensitize people to know that if this happens, you can press charges. And then we also need the machinery of justice to be just a little bit faster, because it's slow. And so people think, if I'm going to put 100,000 naira, 200,000 naira into the process of justice to get justice for someone stealing my work, it's not worth it. I'm just going, and then it's going to take me 2-3 years. Nah, I'll just leave it. So if we have a process of justice that is a little bit faster, people will trust the system to say, okay, you know what? You stole my work. I'm going to get justice. I'm going to file a suit, and I know that in a month or 2 months' time, I'm going to get justice, and I don't need to spend all my money in getting justice. That's for the government side of things. For the private side of things, I think that personally, like from families and schools, we encourage reading. We have more book clubs. We have people encouraged to read for personal development and leisure, and not just literature class. It was in literature classes we had all those Macbeth and stuff, and so some people just confined their reading to that. Some people tried not to read at all. They'll just read key points for something and summarize it. So we need to encourage people to start reading for personal development. Read biographies, read autobiographies, read novels, not just blogs. Read these things, and then we encourage more people not to for the digital space, the focus shouldn't be on gossip per se. If you want to read your gossip, fine, but we should encourage more people to put out content that is, educative as well as entertaining and also wholesome, and encourage people to consume that. I think that when we have this tripartite thing working together, we will have more people who are not just reading. People are not just going to, I'm going to read to pass my exams. People are reading because, the concept of, time management makes sense, and I'm going to read about it. I'm going to apply these rules. And then if someone steals my work, I'm going to get justice. And you too, don't steal someone's work because it's the wrong thing to do. I think when we have those three things working together, it would be better.
All right, let's hear from our resident lecturer for this episode, because at the core of the work that you do is, building this generation and preparing them for whatever it is that they're going to hand over to the next generation. And we already have a culture of piracy, as we've rightly said. So how do you see us changing this narrative, starting from the schools, and of course how private individuals, private companies, and of course the government also can join in this fight against copyright infringements and increasing the culture of reading and respect for people's creativity?
There are two main pointers there. The first one is that writers in Nigeria, whether in the digital space or in the print media, should have a strong and formidable body that we do not have. That body cannot be a law under which we can address the challenges of publishing in Nigeria. It will help. That is one. Two, in my profile, that I am the of Hilltop Creative Arts Foundation. It has its quarters now. What we do in Hilltop is to try and discover in search. We go from schools to schools, primary, secondary, and to discover students and their creative arts potential, which includes writing, performance, other creative arts, artifact, photography, and all that. We bring together and make them see in reading writing and creativity outside the notion of I need to pass exams. They do, they enjoy. It started in a secondary school in Niger State called Hilltop Secondary School by our Nigerian poet Kogi. When the Association of Nigerian Authors saw the job was doing, we took it as a template and we extended it. Today, we have branches in over 20 states in Nigeria, and the students are enjoying. We have a festival once a year we call 15 artists. We bring them all together in the headquarters, and they enjoy and they part in various things. And under that umbrella, we've been able to produce over 400 teen authors, spoken word performance, and other creative works, photographers, and all that, to bring the creative aspect, the aspect of writing to this. So, and this medium of dissemination is very good. I anchored a poetry performance in school 3 weeks ago. From there, I brought in dignitaries to this, where the overall winner of that performance got a sponsor to record his poetry performance. The boom is on the social media platform. Man is very excited because that's a dimension to his life. So to bring creativity like the dimensions like this, so that the children will see reading or creativity from the angle of classroom and reading. In my university, we have a creators club where we sit down, we come, we read somebody, look at the life in it, we pick out the reality, we discuss, talk about it. There is no assessment, there is no exam, because that is really driving us in reading. But now that the social media, the print media is doing a lot, but at the end of the day, authors need to be protected. We don't just wait the government to protect us. We come together as a formidable body under an umbrella so that we can help protect on our own. Writing is difficult, and it's painful when after all the effort, someone just takes it away from you. See that somebody else is making money out of your sweat.
All right. Now, just by way of rounding up, I'm just so curious. We've talked about how we should, the need to encourage people to read and all of that. We are in a generation of, the millennials, as it is often called.
Oh, we say Gen Z now. It's a thing. You would help us with that one. We didn't have Gen Z now, part of it. So.
Exactly, So we have this, generation of people who are glued to social media most times and do not always see the need to really read. I mean, why should I read? So perhaps you should talk to us about what are the benefits of reading? Why should Nigerians imbibe the culture of reading?
Okay. First and foremost, for information. So for me, I view reading as a door, right? That takes me to places that my body may never go to. And that for me reading is basically like virtual travel for me, And I think that that's something that we should encourage people to do, because you could know about Pakistan or Indonesia or Thailand or Bali or Ghana without having stepped your foot there through the pages of books. You read about other people's cultures. For history, you travel back in time. For autobiographies, you get an inner picture into someone's life, maybe somebody that you admire. And I think that is what reading does. It just basically opens the door. And then you could also learn from people that you may never have to. I mean, I've never met Barack Obama, but I've read his thoughts in his book. I have never met, I possibly may never meet Bill Clinton. I possibly may never meet Obasanjo, but I have read their books and I've seen, to the extent that they've allowed me to, I have seen the inner workings of their minds and their thoughts and their opinions on certain issues because I read books, right? And so I think that this is what people should be told about books. This is what books do for you. Many people just view books as a chore. And like I said, it's back to the reading for exam thing. It kind of just messes with your mind and tells you books are tedious to read. And so I think that if people are encouraged to see that books are pleasurable things, This is, what happens when you read books. And apart from that, it improves your vocabulary. I mean, I can tell you, on good authority from personal experience that most of my vocabulary was built from reading books. And many people could actually be writers too, but they don't know because they don't read. Because there's something about being a creative. When you read someone's work, it just sparks a flame in you. And if you had that gift for writing, if you had that gift for telling stories, seeing someone else's stories acts like a catalyst, and you start telling your own stories.
Very punchy and very deep, yeah.
So I think that,
Good readers make good writers.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
All right, let's have your final thoughts, Aisha, in line with what we are just talking about now. What are the benefits of reading? Why should Nigerians read?
For me, reading, it helps to globalize you. It takes you part of the world without you having moved an inch, like she said. Then one very thing about reading is that it makes you, it builds your personality, your knowledge, your intellect, so much so that when you have to contribute to issues, you air your own about it. There's always that unique in you and people that you read. And when you read, it gives you ordinary knowledge so much so that you will have to teach facts and ignorantly. So the knowledge is in you, the knowledge of classroom or exam situation is very, very unique. Really important. It builds it improves your language, it helps your eloquence, and makes you a better person. Only writers. Only writers.
Much, Aisha Abdul Karim, for your thoughts on the program. We'll have to end it here. Thank you so much,
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
me.
much for
coming
joining
on the
us.
program.
Welcome.
It's
for
quite
having
very
us. Thank you for having
interesting, to have this conversation. What
Thank
I'm
you.
taking away is that you don't get to understand your full potential sometimes if you don't really read. Just like what you said about
Yes.
you might just be an author.
I mean,
but
he
because you don't
has
read, you
dreams
don't
of
know.
becoming a billionaire. Who knows? If he starts reading, he might just become a
Very
billionaire
possible.
through writing.
Thank you so much
Pioneer
for
through
coming
reading
on the
and
program.
writing.
We'll be going on a short break, and then when we come back, the Morning Bugle will be rounding up. Let's take our Commerce Council.